Grinder, looking for meat. Grinder wants you to eat. Okay, so let's continue with Judas effing Priest. There's so much stuff to talk about. I really don't know how to, make this video. There's so much to discuss. All the rarities. There are some rare single versions and of known songs, and it's kind of and it's a lot to handle. It's my favorite band of all time, and there's over 50 years to talk about. So let's continue on. There's a part one with the 70s stuff, which is my favorite era of the band, with Les Binks and Simon Phillips and all that weird stuff in the murky early days. But let's begin the 80s. British Steel, a really well-known, well-liked album. This is the remaster version. Bonus tracks. There's Red, White and Blue, which is not that great in my opinion. And then there's Grinder played live, I think probably from Defenders of the Faith tour, I'm guessing. But yeah, it kind of works with Grinder being released here for the first time anyway. This version starts with Rapid Fire instead of Breaking the Law. And on the B side you get You Don't Have to Be Old to Be Wise instead of Leaving After Midnight. So this is like the original order that they want these tracks to be. However, the first CD I got from them from this album had Breaking the Law starting side 1 and then Leaving After Midnight starting side B, because those were the big hit singles. I don't really care for those that much, to be honest. Not a huge fan of that stuff. Here's a live album, live in Denver from 1980. I think they don't play Metal Gods here yet. And they don't even play Breaking the Law here. So that's kind of surprising. So what they play from the new album in this one is Living After Midnight, You Don't Have to Be Old to Be Wise, Grinder, and Stealer, which I think is fair enough. It's kind of a cool version. This is nowadays an official live album. There used to be this bootleg that's floating around, but when they released this one, this huge package here, that's when they also released this one. Then here's one of the shittiest Priest albums ever, called Point of Entry, and I don't think it has any points, so let's not discuss about that one. While British Steel isn't my favorite, I wouldn't give it a 2 thumbs up. I would maybe give it 1 thumb up, or maybe, I don't know. It's kind of a mediocre album in my opinion, because it's so bloody simple, all the songs. But there are a couple of real good bangers there, but there's, all in all, as a whole album, I'm not a fan of Breaking the Law or Living After Midnight. I think in the 70s interviews, Priest was so adamant and wanted to make it clear, we're not like Kiss. And then suddenly they're making these songs that could be basically like on a Kiss album. So, or I think even on an AC/DC album, which is kind of, I'm not saying that Kiss is a bad band. I'm not saying that AC/DC is a bad band. But I think Priest could be capable of doing so much like more interesting things and more technical things and more complicated things. So they kind of like trying to dumb themselves down a bit on those. But here you can see the result. Point of Entry is the logical conclusion that you're going to get when British Steel becomes their first big selling hit album. However, on that tour, they actually had some great bootlegs floating around, and now there's the official live in London. What do they play from Point of Entry here? They play Solar Angels. They used to start with that one. I think there's actually like this live version somewhere here, if I remember right. Is there Solar Angels here? Yes, there is a complete version. On this one, you get just the intro, and then they go into heading out to the highway. It's a decent song. It's not really a huge song for me, but fine. You get Metal Gods for the first time here. You get Breaking the Law for the first time as well, yeah. You get Desert Plains. I think Solar Angels and Desert Plains work when they're played live. They work much better um, than on the album. And yeah, I guess I don't have much to say about that one. It's one of their crappier albums anyway, in my opinion. Scream for Vengeance, very cool album, a huge return. They kind of try to maintain the sound and the energy of the 80s, but they start writing some good tunes again, like the title track, Scream for Vengeance. This is not the original version though. This is the 30th anniversary edition. The cover artwork is a bit different. It's colored a bit differently. But definitely the title track is really cool. Electric Eye is wonderful. And then there are these more simpler but very catchy songs like Riding on the Wind and Devil's Child. And the midsection with Take These Chains, and especially Pain and Pleasure, is kind of, I don't know about this one. But other than that, definitely a solid album, a really cool album. I keep finding other versions of some of these. Here's British Steel, where they actually, I think around 2009, they played the whole album. This is the deluxe version, which has both the DVD and the CD. And some other cool songs as bonus. They played live there as well. But yeah, I was talking about Scream for Vengeance in 1982. They released live DVD from that tour, Memphis, Tennessee, 1983, or December 1982 actually. Released the following year. And it's a really cool one, and actually kind of showed me what Priest was about in the early 80s. On the box set you can also find double CD live concert. I think it pretty much has the same songs as on the DVD. So if you have the DVD, this is not essential, but it's still cool to have. I think actually this was recorded in 11th of December, and this is according to the text on the 12th of December. So this is this is in Memphis, Tennessee, and this is in Atlanta, Georgia. So no wonder the track lists are pretty similar on both of those. Also, if you have this remaster version here, you're gonna get a DVD and bonus live tracks. So you basically get the same songs over and over and over again, but it is a cool album nonetheless. Here's Defenders of the Faith. I think this is also the 30th anniversary edition. Kind of cool. What you get here is a double disc live. I think there was this radio show. It's recorded in Long Beach in California. 5th of May 1984. And they play pretty much every single song on Defenders of the Faith here. So that's like a first for them. I think they didn't play Eat Me Alive, but every other track from this new one is actually played here, which is pretty mind-blowing. This is a really cool album as well. I'm gonna give it 2 thumbs up, just like Screaming for Vengeance. Great stuff. It kind of feels like Screaming for Vengeance Part 2, but other than that, brilliant. Great album. Especially the A side is really strong. On the B side, I don't know, it gets a bit boring at places. I'm kind of also disappointed that the closing section, whereas with Screaming for Vengeance, the title track is like the best song on the album. What with Defenders of the Faith is just this crowd chanting thing, and I'm not at all a huge fan of that, so that has always kind of disappointed me. Then I think we need Turbo next. This is shit. If you like metal, never listen to this one. It's horrible. It's hair metal. It's the songwriting, I guess, is decent, but the lyrics are really kitschy and it's just all 80s and excess of that time. If I had to pick one song that I enjoy on this one, no, it's not Turbo Lover. I don't really like that song that much. Reckless, the closing track. I think it has a cool melody. It has some of that Heart of a Lion thing going for it. Other than that, no, it's just don't just forget it even exists. However, they had to release this live album from that same tour, so that's kind of why. There are so many songs from Turbo here that it's really hideous in that department. Also, the sound is really clear but very synthesized. And I mean, there are some really cool songs here. You get this combination of Electric Eye, Turbo Lover, and Free Will Burning coming in a row, which I guess is fine. All the fast songs in a row. Out in the Cold surprisingly works kind of well right at the beginning of the set, even though it's like a ballad kind of thing, like a slow song that kind of, I don't know. Yeah, terrible era for the band. Here's Live in Houston. This is also from the huge box set. Pretty much the same deal as Priest Live. I guess there are a couple of different songs here, but not much to say about that. Then, the Forgotten album, the one that doesn't even exist, Ram It Down from 1988. They kind of try to go a bit heavier with some of the tracks, and God knows the titles are Ram It Down and Heavy Metal and I'm a Rocker, Monsters of Rock, Love You to Death. With those kind of titles, you kind of could expect them to actually like do something heavier. Here's another version of it. But I don't know, it's just it's kind of the Forgotten album. It's better than Turbo, I'll give it that. I kind of like Blood Red Skies. Heavy metal is kind of like a cool song, but then with all the synthesizers, it's kind of weird. Ram It Down is kind of decent. Hard as Iron is probably one of the best tracks on this album. I even like Love You to Death, which once again has this S&M thing going. Like in the 70s, Island of Domination and Evil Fantasies. Now we get back to that whoosh, kind of. So that's kind of fun. But yeah, not a terribly rememberable album. It's about as good as British Steel for me. Pretty kind of maybe one cautious thumb up. Painkiller. This is an amazing album. What can I say? This is where they get all speed metal. You can see it in the cover artwork already. It's gonna be amazing. I have this weird blue cover version. I think probably someone has just changed the cover. I think this is the original Painkiller version. But man, this looks cool as all hell, and so I really like it for that reason. Also, it's nice to get. It's such an important album. It's nice to get the original CD version of that. I think it sounds just fine even without being remastered. Here's the Touch of Evil single. On the B's, you get Between the Hammer and the Anvil, and then you've got another thing coming, live version. Unfortunately, it's from Priest Live from Turbo Tour, but yeah, I think it's fine. It's not like terribly bad. I think I also got the single box set, so that a bunch of these might be there as well. What next? Oh yeah, I forgot to mention. Here's another version of Painkiller. This is like the slim version of it. I forgot to mention Live in New Haven, 1988, from Ram It Down tour. I think this is fine. They play Come and Get It, I'm a Rocker, Ram It Down, heavy metal from the new album here. It's also nice to hear Sinner play it here. I think they retired it for a couple of tours, so it's nice to get that back in here. And then from Painkiller tour, I've got 2 sets. I actually, they came along with this huge box set here. Like you can see from the art, it's similar to those other live albums I had there. But I just figured out, because they're both from the same tour, both from the Painkiller tour, why not have them like here, like a double disc? Because what's good about this is they picked 2 kind of different track lists, 2 kind of different tours. One of them is in the early 1990, early on the tour, 13th of September. They play Riding on the Wind, Grinder, Heading Out to the Highway, Between the Hammer and the Anvil, Bloodstone, Better by You, Better Than Me, Leather Rebel, Green Monalishi, Hellbent for Leather, and You've Got Another Thing Coming. Whereas with Irvine Meadows, which is from 12th July 1991, they're actually kind of different songs from Painkiller. You can find here you can find All Guns Blazing and Nightcrawler, Touch of Evil and Painkiller and that kind of stuff. So combining that with Leather Rebel and Between the Hammer and the Anvil, so you get more interesting songs from Painkiller. So I think that's done nicely. And these 2 albums really kind of, even though I think there's 1 or 2 songs that are the same, like You've Got Another Thing Coming and Hellbent for Leather are the same. There might be a couple of others, Scream Monalishi. It's kind of nicely, it's a nice addition to the other. They complement each other, these 2 albums. And then after that, Halford left the band, so they released 2 albums with another singer, Ripper Owens, Tim Ripper Owens. He has Jugulator. It tries to be really heavy and kind of Pantera-like, I guess. I guess they were trying to compete with Halford, who had released 2 fight albums. Actually, 1 fight album. 2 fight albums by this point, I think. War of Words was one of those albums, and it was kind of successful, though, so they wanted to be as heavy or even heavier than that. Some of these songs are pretty good, like the title track Jugulator, I think is cool, Bullet Train, Cathedral Spires, maybe even Death Row and Burn in Hell. I think those are fine, but then there's some god-awful shit here, like Decapitate, Brain Dead, but the worst offender here is Abductors, which is just so annoying. They start talking about these aliens taking you, and it's like a half ballad anyway, and it sounds horrible. Even the singer doesn't sound terribly good on this one. Usually I think Tim Ripper Owens is really singing technically really well. The lyrics can sometimes be kind of dumb there, but he's always singing really well and energetically. But with Abductors, it just doesn't work at all for me. They released a live album, Live Meltdown, 98. There's plenty of songs from Painkiller here, so that was really cool at the time to have that one. And then they released another studio album with Owens called Demolition. I have to admit, this is one of those albums I haven't listened to that much. It's not a terribly bad album, but it's kind of very, very mediocre. And some of the songs are annoying as all heck. Live in London, I think this one was released in 2001, yeah, from the Demolition tour. So you get Tim Ripper Owen still here. And there are a couple of tracks that weren't on Live Meltdown, but I don't know. They did release a live DVD from this, so maybe that's more interesting, but it just seems to cover much of the same ground as Live Meltdown, so I'm not terribly interested. Then there's a huge comeback album. I think this is from 2005. And this was probably, yeah, on this tour I went to see a Priest for the first time. So it was cool that Halford was coming back to the band. Uh, if I would listen to something from this nowadays, I would go with Demonizer and Hell Rider. Deal with the Devil is kind of a cool song as well. The rest, I don't know. I could take it or leave it. There's nothing terribly bad here. Maybe Worth Fighting For isn't that great. Loch Ness is way too long for its own good. There's like this fake ending. And had they finished the song off at that point, it would have been pretty good. It would have been decent, but then they just keep going, and there's this massive, huge ending chorus, and it drags on forever. The song, that kind of ruins the closing track, in my opinion. I think they did release some live material from that tour, but maybe we can check it out later. Yes, Nostradamus. It's a double CD. Some people say this is the worst Priest album. I don't know, maybe. If you really want to hear heavy metal opera thing happening, I don't think it's that bad. So if you're in the right mindset and you don't want to hear anything by Judas Priest, you just want to hear a operatic heavy metal album, then actually this might be a pretty good one. But considering what Priest is usually about, it's pretty, especially the second CD. I might give the first CD a pass. If they released like a one CD version, that would be pretty cool. There was like this one song on CD too that I liked, but I can't remember the name right now. But the first disc is kind of listenable. The second one, it's just so much to stomach in. No. It's an album I very rarely listen to. Touch of Evil live. Now here's the version. I wish they had placed the Japanese version because it has 2 extra tracks. It has Worth Fighting For and Deal with the Devil, and I think Deal with the Devil is one hell of a song. But yeah, it's still cool. You get Judas Rising, which is a fine song. Hell Rider is really cool. You get Between the Hammer and the Anvil. I think this is where you used to get it for the first time live. Now that we have the old Painkiller tours released like officially, maybe it's not that special anymore, but it's still a cool song. Between the Hammer and the Anvil, really cool song. Riding on the Wind, yeah, I think that's fine. Beyond the Realms of Death, yeah, they had missed it on the first 2 live albums for some reason. So it's cool to have that here. Dissident Aggressor, for the first time ever, they played that live. That's brilliant. And then there's quite a lot of Painkiller stuff here. So that works nicely with Halford singing it for the first time officially. I think that's pretty cool. Here's Redeemer of Souls. And this is the 2-disc version, which has like the 5 extra tracks on disc number 2. So that's cool. I kind of like the songs on this one, but unfortunately the way they master it and the way the sound is produced is pretty terrible. Especially on a song like Metallizer, which is one of my favorite songs here, it sounds really terrible because of the production. I think Dragonaut is fine, Halls of Valhalla is fine, Swords of Damocles, Redeemer of Souls, yeah. Cold Blooded, I think that's a pretty cool one. Battle Cry, that's a really epic song near the B-side. And here's another version of that before I got the box set, so I had like the other version of it. And then there's the live stuff from this tour. They released this Battle Cry thing, which is cool. But once I got the box set, now I have it like 2 times. I don't know if I really need both of these, but there you have it. And here's the newest studio album, Firepower. I really wish they had released some live material from this one, because they played Saints in Hell live, all the way from Stained Class. And they actually kept changing the track list from one concert to the next, so it would have been really cool if they had released live stuff from this tour, but apparently at the moment it seems they're probably not going to do that. Traitor's Gates is a really cool one near the B-side. This one reminds me, Songrise, a lot of Redeemer of Souls, but I think it's more even. I think the highlight of this album for me is the first track, Firepower. It has this really wonderful midsection, really great guitar melody that I wasn't expecting. Surprisingly good album. Is this as good as their 70s classics? Probably not. Is this as good as Painkiller? No. But it comes rather close, in my opinion, to something like Defenders of the Faith. Somewhere slightly behind Screaming for Vengeance, and maybe around Defenders of the Faith is where I would place this. It's a really cool album. It starts off strong and closes strong as well. I even like songs like Lone Wolf, No Surrender. I even like Spectre, because I haven't heard a song like that from Priest before. The only problem I have with this album is it's a bit on the long side. So maybe the midsection of Children of the Sun, Flamethrower, some of those songs could have been left out. Even one of those, and it would be shorter. I kind of like Rising from the Ruins, and they played it live as well and seemed to be kind of hell-bent on that song, so fair enough. But Children of the Sun and Flamethrower, cut them out of here, and this would be a pretty much perfect album for the almost 2020s when it was released. I think 2017, 2018 it says here, when it was released. Okay, so what else? Oh my god, this is gonna be such a long video once again. I do have this box set, Metallurgy. Is it necessary now with all these huge box sets released? Maybe not. It was kind of cool hearing Heart of a Lion for the first time here, though. And there are some live versions that I think are only released there. The cover artwork is pretty cool as well, but I might check out those in another videos at some point, even closer. Here's the single cuts, so you get all these different singles, like on this kind of, the old ones look just like these, and they're like these black CDs, so that's kind of cool. Here's another style of cover. They have all in black. But then we get to the interesting stuff around British Steel with Breaking the Law and United. Then this is from Point of Entry. The same album also. And this is from Scream for Vengeance. There you can see also the original cover artwork for that album. Chains. Or Take These Chains, as it's called on the album. And this is from Defenders of the Faith, as you can already see from the cover artwork. Turbo. Locked In. This is also from Turbo. Then they, for some reason, they completely skip Ram It Down. I think they at least released Johnny Be Good as a single, so I don't know where that is, but maybe they didn't release it in UK. Here's Painkiller from the same album, Painkiller. Also United, I can't remember if that's a live version or not. Here's Touch of Evil, which I already showed you once. I have another version of that same single. Yes, Nightcrawler, and it's been edited. It's an edited version, and then there's Living After Midnight live on that one as well. Then here's the album collection. I don't know if I'm gonna even open this one up. It's all pretty much the same albums we've discussed. Rock'n'Roller, Sad Wings of Destiny, Sin After Sin, Staying Class, Killing Machine, Unleashed in the East, British Steel, Point of Entry, Scream of Vengeance, Defenders of the Faith, Turbo, Priest Live, Ram It Down, Painkiller. Then they skip the Ripper Owens albums and go with Edge of Retribution. Then there's Nostradamus there on the lower corner, and then Touch of Evil live here. And it's the European version also, so it's not the Japanese version in this one either. Why not include those 2 extra songs? Because all the other remasters have extra stuff in them. I don't know. Maybe they just got a huge pile of these albums that haven't sold to the finish. I don't know. So this one we already discussed about. If we look at some of these DVDs, the 70s stuff is on the 70s video. You can check it out there. But from the 80s, you get Breaking the Law, and you've got Another Thing Coming from 1983. And then von Westfalenhalle, Dortmund, in December, you get this 7-song live set, Riding on the Wind, Breaking the Law. There they sing Free Will Burning, probably one of the first times they've done it live. It's even before the album was released. Free Will Burning, You Got Another Thing Coming, Living After Midnight, Victim of Changes, Hellbent for Leather. And 1984, from Newcastle, Live at the Tube, you get Electric Eye, Free Will Burning, You've Got Another Thing Coming. And then live at Meadows, Irvine, California, 1991, there's some live stuff released here. But this is unofficial, this. I think the sound and picture quality was decent. There's Metalworks documentary, which I used to have on VHS. And there's some 70s videos. You can even find a short clip of their performance from 1975 on Reading Festival in the YouTube, if you're going to check out there. Yes, Electric Eye, where you get all the studio videos starting from British Steel era, finishing off with Painkiller, so around 10 years of videos. Then you get the Fuel for Life tour, so basically Priest live. There are a couple of different songs here. I think they play Locked In live here, which they don't on that live CD. And then there's a bunch of 70s performances which I already discussed about, and then also Living After Midnight and United studio video versions. Then when Halford returned, they started really pushing on with the release of these. There's this bonus disc version of Angel of Retribution, which has a couple of bonus songs. I think they play Breaking the Law, Metal Gods, Touch of Evil, Hellbent for Leather, Electric Eye, Diamonds and Rust, and Living After Midnight there, I think. But here's Rising from the East. This is like a whole complete live show. And there are some cool and kind of rare songs here. This is the first tour I went to see them in Helsinki, not in Tokyo like here, but still it kind of brings me back kind of a lot of memories. It wasn't their greatest tour though. They kind of sounded a bit old and tired on that tour, I think. Here's Epitaph, the one where they were supposed to finish and stop making music, and KK Downing just kind of dropped off the tour. So they got a new guitar player, and Mr. Faulkner. And I think he really brought new energy to the band. What they tried to do on this tour, Epitaph tour, in 2012, they tried to play like at least one song from pretty much all of their albums with Halford. Nothing with the Ripper Owens albums, but all the other ones, and that was kind of a huge ordeal to take on, but they managed, I think, rather fine. I think this is a cool one. I don't think there are that many rare songs on this tour, but they did play Never Satisfied, which was kind of interesting at that point. Battle Cry. So this is from Redeemer of Souls tour, and this is from Wacken 2015. And yeah, you got some of the new songs. I can't really remember if there's anything that rare here, but I guess Devil's Child is kind of a surprise. Jawbreaker. So there are always a couple of these. And then there are some bonus tracks here from Gdansk, Poland. And there's Screaming for Vengeance, The Rage, and Desert Plains, which is a nice little bonus there. Yeah, that's about all the Priest I have. Maybe at some point I'm gonna go through the box sets like one by one, but yeah, that's about it. I also have some vinyls, but there's so much to show even here that I'm not gonna go there right now. If you managed to watch this video to the end, thanks a lot. I love Priest and I love talking about Priest, but I feel kind of exhausted right now. There's so much stuff I didn't remember even that I have this much Priest stuff. But I'm still looking forward to the new album, Invisible Shield. I hope there's going to be some interesting live material. I would really love to get a official live version of Saints in Hell, for instance. So that would be nice. Either on DVD or on CD or whatever. So, until the next time, yeah, keep your metal faith up.